Hi guys, Mike here from Sport 101, and today we're going to be talking about how coaches can get the most out of one of these. In today's episode, I'm going to talk all about my top 10 tips and apps on how I get the most out of using my iPad. The iPad is probably one of my most used things as a coach, just because it has so many options and ways in which to use it. I'm going to talk today about the 10 favorite apps that I use, some in ways which I have used them before and some in ways which I'm going to use them. I'll make sure in the description below I'm going to link all the apps so that you can download them straight away and get using them. So first off, I'm going to talk about my favorite whiteboard app. As a coach, I've tried so many different whiteboard apps for the iPad over the years. And the one which I'm using at the moment is Coach Tactics Board. And they have a hockey specific one. So for all the hockey coaches out there, they have a hockey specific version on here which you can use. Let's dive in. So, as I said, the first app that we're going to look at is going to be the coach board that I'm using at the moment. So we'll dive straight into the app. As you can see in here, pretty simple setup. We've got a whole pitch setup with all of our menus and our icons across the top. I really like using the Apple Pencil when I'm doing any of my session design or anything like that. For me, it just has made life so much easier and I can be that much more accurate with what I'm doing. Dive into settings in the top left hand corner. So in here, as you can see, we've got the pitch. We can have a half pitch setup. We can have a square, just blank. And we can also have just a blank field altogether. You can change the color of the pitch to green, gray or white. In here, you can change all your team settings and everything in there. And then you can also rename them, so you can have all the positions set up. You can have your player names if it's something you're using regularly with your team. So there's loads of functionality in here, and if you're really OCD, you can even change the color of your teams. We'll dive back into here, get our pitch set up. Two other things I really like about this app. First thing, dive into the little cone icon in the top hand corner. You can see all of your icons are really accessible around the outside of the pitch. I tend to use yellow for goalkeepers, reds for attackers, and blues for defenders. For me, this then just gives that consistency when I'm talking to my players or to my staff, to when I'm giving these plans out. It just gives that little bit of extra consistency, and it's something that I don't need to keep explaining each and every time. The other thing, if you want to add things in like a ball, you can then change the size to make it a little bit more real. And if I want to add an extra goal or any of the other equipment, double tap on it and then you can rotate through. For me, this obviously isn't going to be a full kind of guide on how to use the app. It's pretty straightforward and common sense, but I really like using it for a number of different reasons. The other thing I really like about it is if we go into the pencil in the top right hand corner, you then can actually have all the different types of lines and drawings that you want to use. So for example, you can go freehand and you can then draw it like so. Or for us OCD coaches out there, because we love our yellow markers, for pitch setups, you can get your perfectly straight line every single time. Okay, so then we can draw our pitch in, and there we go. You can change the thickness of the lines, color of the lines, and all the different shapes. The other thing that I really like going about this is actually how easy it is to share the images and to then post things across different apps to be able to share it around. So if we click on the little envelope, in here you can actually share it directly. So you can save it into your photos, Dropbox, you can email it directly or print it. For me, I always save it into photos and then I share it out from there. For me, this is the easiest way to do, because it means then I can either text something directly to my players or staff, or what I can then do is I can then add that photo into another document later down the line, and then it's all backed up and stored. So that's this app. Let's go on to app number 2. Okay, so the second app that I want to talk about, and this may seem a bit kind of boring and a bit obvious, but it's the Notes app. So for me, the Notes app is one of the most used apps that I use. I use it for planning these videos. I use it for making notes during a game. I'll use it for planning sessions, taking notes from meetings. I use it all the time, and particularly with the new iOS updates and the fact that you can now drop videos and images straight into the iPad has been an absolute game changer. So if I'm doing scouting notes, or I'm doing kind of player feedback notes, I can download everything straight into the app so that I have then on record everything nicely organized, exactly what I want to feedback to the player. It also means that it syncs across all my devices. I won't lie, I love Apple products. I'm not obviously sponsored by them, I wish I was. But the fact that it links from my laptop to my phone to the iPad just makes everything so good. And I think that's one thing that you're going to see coming up across a lot of these apps that I use. And the fact that it all syncs together makes life an absolute dream. Sorry for all those guys that are using Windows or Android phones. I'm sure that a lot of these things can move across the two as well. But yeah, for me, Apple has always been, over the last 10 years or so, my kind of go-to. So for the ecosystem, it works great. So now on to number 3. This is Pocket Coder. Pocket Coder for me in the early days was an absolute lifesaver. It's a cheap way to tag either in-game footage or training, or even giving coach feedback, to then add that to whatever video analysis software you're using, whether that's Game Breaker, whether that's My Video Analyzer, whether that's Dartfish, whatever you're using. It can then export the XML of whatever you've coded, so then you can upload it, and then you have a base timeline to work from. We'll talk about coding games and XMLs and all that stuff in a separate video, but for now we'll just dive into Pocket Coder, have a look at how that works, and I'll make sure I'll put the link below. One thing to note though, it hasn't been updated in about 2 years. So what that means is I don't know how long it's going to last for. So it may only last another year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. But for me, it's a really inexpensive way to kind of get your games and everything coded. And we'll talk about more about that in a second. Pocket Coder is a simple coding app. Now, for those that are kind of starting to video their games and do analysis on top of that, this is a really good app to be able to start coding and everything else. If you're using Game Breaker or My Video Analyzer or Dartfish or any of the other software packages out there, then this is really helpful. What it does is you create all of your codes within the app, and it then can export an XML, which you can then use whenever. Inside Editor, which is in this bottom hand corner here. Not Coder, that's really important. I definitely got that wrong a few times. So we're then going to go Add, which is in this top right hand corner. This is our first little code button. In here, we're going to name it Goal. What we're then going to do is we can make it bigger just by dragging. So for this, we're going to make it quite a big button. We then can change the color by pressing on the little paintbrush up here. So we're going to have it as a green button. We can then change the time. So in here you have lead time and lag time. The first little pop-up that will come up is for lead time. This is for the time leading up to when you press the button. What that means is if I put 5 for 5 seconds before, when I press the button, it will then give me 5 seconds of the clip before I press the button. which is really helpful in terms of showing the lead up. Lag time is what the time after I press the button. So we all like celebrations, so let's have 4 seconds of lag time. That means I will then have the 5 seconds before and the 4 seconds after, leading to a 9-second clip. You can also change the size up here, so we can make the text a little bit bigger. We go done. What we then have is our code window, and what we can then do is go into Coda, and this is where we'd start the game. So making sure I've got Coda highlighted before I want to start coding. And press start up in the top hand corner to start the timeline rolling. Really useful tip, start the timer here and record on your camera at the same time and stop them at the same time. That for me is an absolute lifesaver and makes everything really, really simple. Whenever a goal happens, I push the button or the code and it highlights. You might be able to see a little highlight over the word goal. That means that that instance has happened. The next stage is the game finishes. I press pause. I then go to the information and I go email output. Give it a name, so we can say game 1. Ooh, bad typing from me. Game 1, and I'll be able to then email that to myself. This will then be emailed as an XML file, which I can then upload into my game file within my analysis software. It's really clear that this will not work unless I'm using an analysis software such as Game Breaker or My Video Analyzer or something like that already. If I'm not using that, this will not be helpful at all. So really useful app. Helped me out a lot when I first started getting into video analysis and actually coding and stuff. So yeah, really good one to have. Let's move on to the next one. Number 4 is my calendar. The use of my calendar is daily, whether that's emails, video conferencing, which is pretty topical right now, planning when I've done sessions. So if I'm having to invoice for sessions that I've done, it's all there, it's all organized, and it's all ready to go. Having my calendar app up to date, and again, the beauty of using the Apple ecosystem is it all ties together and I know exactly what's going on. I haven't got a paper diary which I've then not updated, or I've got a diary on one system and then it's not transferring it. I know that whenever I update it, it goes across all my devices and I know what's going on. I make sure I set reminders. I make sure that I do other things within that so that I get the most out of it. Again, coming back to the ecosystem, at number 5 for me is the new file system. The fact that I can move files and update things on here and then it instantly comes up on my Mac at home is fantastic. Also, if I want to send stuff via messaging or WhatsApp, I can access it on my phone. That for me has completely changed me as a coach in terms of my organization and in terms of being able to share information. As a coach, I get into a habit of having really well organized, really well structured file system. We've got a bit of extra time now, so if it is a bit of a mess in there, get in there, tidy it all up, organize everything so that when it comes around to busy season, you can access everything. I make sure I've got all of my game files separate. I make sure that I've got all of my training files separate, all of my company stuff. Everything's organized into separate folders so I can find it whenever I need to. Number 6, the voice recorder. I haven't used this a lot, to be honest. I used it intermittently, so sometimes I use it and sometimes I won't, but it's something which I definitely want to get back into using. And one of the things which I've been thinking about using it for is actually meetings. So if I'm having a meeting with a player or I'm meeting suppliers or whatever, actually to use the video recorder to record the meeting and then save it into the calendar keeps everything really organized. So if I'm like, okay, what did we say at the meeting? Then I can actually go back into my calendar app. I can then go into the voice memo, which I've saved and shared into that calendar. That then for me means that I've got everything organized. So if I do want to go back, it's really easy to find. if in game I want to make a note about something, I can just voice memo it, and then I've got it for later. So for me, that's a really easy thing to get a load of gains out of. If I don't want to spend the time writing it down, I can just have it. That for me is going to be a really useful thing and something which I want to use more going forwards. Number 7, coach's clock. For anybody who's had to deal with large benches where you've got loads of players who are having to rotate on and off during a game, having coach's clock is an absolute lifesaver, because then you can actually see how much they've played and managing their minutes and stuff. Again, this is an app which has been around for a long time, so I know a lot of you guys would have seen this, but for me, it's just been a really valuable app. The beauty of this is this could be handed to a parent to look after, so you could say, right, I want all the players to be on the pitch for 6 minutes and then we can rotate them through, or something like that, whatever works for you. And then you can just check in with them throughout the game, but then you know that it's going to get done, and give it to a parent that you trust. Don't just chuck it to anybody. Number 8, for all of you planners out there, is Simple Mind. This is a mind map app which I've used for years and years and years. Spider diagram, mind map, whatever you want to call it. I really like it. It's good for us who have OCD, so you can have all the bubbles in particular colours. You can organise it however, you can have streams coming off, and it just is a really nice way of visualising ideas. I used it when I first planned out what I want to look like, and it's nice to check back into. Number 9, the native video app. I can't talk about the iPad and not then talk about the native video app. I've tried loads of different video coaching apps and everything else, but the thing I keep coming back to is just the native video app. It's so easy to use. The quality now is so good with the cameras and everything else. You've got the little slide bar, so you can slow motion things down for the players so they can see exactly what they've done and what they may need to improve on. You can share it to your phone, you can save it into the Notes app, which again is really valuable. You can save it into the event, so if you've videoed corners of a game, you could then save them into the calendar, so then you can think, okay, well, what corners did they lose last time? I'm going to go back into my calendar, saved into Notes or attachments. You can then go into there and then see what happened last time. That then helps database everything and just keeps everything organized so that you can plan going forwards much better, and it's structured. Finally, with obviously everything that's going on at the moment, we need to find a way to be able to communicate to players, staff, leadership groups, meetings, whatever. So something I've been using recently is Zoom. There's loads of different ones out there. You can use all the different FaceTimes, you can use whatever, but for me, I really like Zoom. It's easy to schedule video meetings, video conferences. You can record everything that's said in the meetings, and actually it can be a really fun thing to do. So for example, we had a pub quiz last night with the staff and the players from the hockey club that I work at, and it was a lot of fun. It's really nice just to get everybody together socially, but it's definitely something I want to use more going forwards. So for example, if I need to have a video meeting with some of my players about a couple of things that's going on, then we can get a few guys into there, and it's actually a really nice thing to do. Having to be resourceful in these times to try different things out has really opened my eyes to how important technology and how lucky we are that we've got devices like this and this to really help us in our coaching and our planning and our delivery of everything that's going on at the moment. So now the fact that you can use your mouse with it, you can use external keyboard, this is actually a really good replacement for a laptop. And if you're doing video analysis and stuff, yes, you need a laptop, whatever. But for the majority of coaches, one of these is fantastic. So let me know in the comments below if there's more things that you'd like to know about use of the iPad or software I'm using on my Mac or on my phone. Let me know drop me some comments and I'll make sure that I can discuss those in the coming weeks. This has been a really fun video to make, and I've really liked diving into my processes and actually digging a little bit deeper into that to then share that with you guys. I'm certainly revising everything that I'm doing at the moment as a coach and seeing how I can be kind of more efficient and more streamlined moving forwards, and hopefully this video has helped you guys in that. And yeah, can't wait to see you guys on the next one. We've got more tutorials, we've got more podcasts coming up with guests. Can't wait to share those with you. Just a really exciting time with this channel. So if you haven't already, like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you want to, get the bell on to notify you on when I post more videos. I'm looking to post at the moment probably 3 videos a week. Really glad that you guys are joining us with these videos. See you guys on the next one.